receive this the same way that they receive their Social Security checks as well. It is a maximum of 3,000, so those with 9 children are not going to have a big win here. So definitely make sure that you let them know they're going to be receiving that. On the next slide, it shows how this is phased out for your members and for yourselves. It begins a phase out at $75,000 for individuals and couples at $150,000. So for every $1,000 you make over those numbers, those bottom numbers, it's a $50 reduction in the payment that you'll receive. So be looking forward to that. The next slide, Brother Stone shares the increase in unemployment benefits. Many states, I know here in Mississippi, it's around $236 or $38 a week that a individual receives. So over the next 4 months, that is going up $600. So it'll be over $800 that they could receive based on what they were making before. So if they wasn't making that much, they're not going to make that much. But if they were making more than that, then they'll definitely get this, and that will help them over the next 4 months. Benefits have been extended. So where a person could be on it for 13 weeks, they can now be on it for 39 weeks. Or excuse me, it was extended 13 weeks. So instead of being on it 26 weeks, they can be on it 39 weeks. So that'll help them. And another one is that in this region, we have a lot of freelancers, a lot of construction workers who do a lot of side jobs. And I have several in our church. These are being labeled under gig workers and freelancers. They are eligible for unemployment benefits as well. So make sure that your people know, even if they're just working side jobs and per job things, they can go to their unemployment office or to their website, and they can get this information so that they can apply as well. The additional benefits in this as well is your federal tax filing has been extended from April 15th to July 15th. So if you hadn't filed your taxes and made your payments, you've got until July 15th to do that. And federal student loan payments and interest payments are waived until September 30th. So if you got people who are in college or who recently graduated and you know they have loans, reach out to them and let them know they can stop their student loan payment. They have to go in and stop automatic payments. It's not just going to stop on its own. So make sure that they know, if you know someone, to tell them to go in and stop the automatic payment. The next part is the part that's definitely going to be a benefit to you, and this is in the CARES Act. And this is a forgivable loan or a paycheck protection loan. Now, they use the word loan because at first it is going to be a loan, but this loan can be forgiven. So in essence, it becomes a grant to you and your local church. The next slide shows that the churches are eligible for this. They're available to charitable nonprofits with 500 or fewer employees, full-time or part-time. So if you, and every one of us, I believe, we have less than 500 employees. So you are eligible to apply for this. This application is done at your local bank. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, you need to call your banker and you need to tell them, how can I get this information, get my name in, and get this done. These grants and loans are not backed by individuals. They're not backed by, nobody has to sign on this except for the church. They're fully guaranteed by the federal government. They will be administered by the Small Business Administration for your bank. You do not do this any other place. You don't let anybody else talk you into doing this or doing it over the phone. You call your banker, as long as they're SBA certified. Many of them are. The majority of them are. They will help you get this done. There is $350 billion available. And it will provide up to $10 million per organization. Now, none of us are going to get $10 million at all. So we'll explain how that works for you. But I'm just going to say this. In one of the conference calls, we had 5,000 people registered for the webinar. Only 3,000 could get on. On the next conference call, 7,000 people had registered. Only, again, so many could get in. I logged into the web conference an hour early just to make sure that I could get you guys all the information I possibly could and wouldn't be locked out. So there's a lot of people, and this isn't just for churches. So every small business that is out there, every small business that is operating within your local church and your people are operating, this is available to them. So $350 million, going to go very quickly. This opens up on Friday. So that's why I say tomorrow morning you need to call your banker. You need to ask them what information you're going to need for this, and they will be able to get you set up with the information so that on Friday, when the forms and everything are available, they can get that stuff filled out for you and get you in the front of the line to get this taken care of. Let me explain what this Paycheck Protection Loan is. This is a loan for 2.5. No, go back. We're just on that bottom slide there, Brother Stone. This loan can be for as much as 2.5 times your payroll. All right. So 2.5 times what your monthly payroll is. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your monthly payroll, what your church treasurer is writing a check for you or for your janitor or associate pastor or whoever, every paycheck, even those who are a 1099 employee in your church, they will add that up, divide it by 12 months over the last 12 months of the rolling year, and you can get a loan for 2.5 times your payroll. We can move to the next slide, Brother Stone. This waives the typical Small Business Association's loan requirement that credit must be unavailable elsewhere. It waives typical SBA loan requirements that the borrower must personally guarantee the loan or provide collateral. Basically, you're going to walk into the bank. There's a lot more to it, but you're going to walk into the bank with your numbers. You're going to explain to them, or you're going to call your banker with your numbers, explain to them what you need, and they're going to get you taken care of and deposit the money in your checking account. So we're going to walk through a little bit more of this. Keep on going. Again, the sum of the average monthly payroll cost multiplied by 2.5 times. Now, next slide is going to explain what is included in this. Payroll costs, they include wages, commissions, salary, or similar compensation to an employee or an independent contractor. That's your 1099 employees. Payment of cash tips or equivalent, payment for vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave, allowance for dismissal or separation, payment for group health care benefits, including premiums, payment of retirement benefits. So if they're paying you a 403B as part of the church and you're getting something out of that, that is included in the total cost of payroll. Payment of state or local taxes assessed on the compensation of employees can be included if the church is paying that for you. Federal taxes and Social Security and Medicaid does not count. So it's not part of what the overall payroll costs are included. Again, we're going to send this PowerPoint to you as well so that you can have that. On to the next slide. What payroll costs do not include the compensation of any individual employee in excess of an annual salary of $100,000. Don't all of you laugh at once. Payroll taxes, FICA, Medicare, employer matching, those things as mentioned. Any compensation of an employee whose principal place of residence is outside the United States, or any qualified sick leave or family medical leave for which a credit is allowed under the new Coronavirus Family First Relief Act. Part of that, you can't double dip in this. So if you have a member who contracts COVID and they're put off of work, they can go through, file paperwork through the unemployment offices and stuff, and they'll get a payout to help them with their expenses, even for families who've lost loved ones, similar to the situations that happened in 9/11. There is payouts to help families during this time. All right. Again, next slide basically is the same exact thing, just says what's included and not included. Wanted to share with you a website called COVID.church/care. You want to write that down. Again, it's COVID.church/care. There's a lot of documentation there. There is even a paycheck protection loan aid calculator there for you to enter your numbers, and it'll help you with all that is going to be asked on the application. So that's important. You've got to know your numbers. You've got to know what your overall expenses were over the last 12 months, what your overall income was over the last 12 months, and then exactly what payroll was being paid to you. I know we don't look at it as payroll, but it is payroll when you receive that. The next slide, I did get some new information on this one. The maximum maturity of this loan is 10 years and the interest rate cannot exceed 4%. The small business website was just updated recently, and this is the initial terms are 2 years and the rate is 0.5%. Is what they're looking at. So that's what they're setting those at. Now, so you're saying this is a loan? Yes, it is at first, but it is a forgivable loan. So let me tell you how this works. That means you'll pay nothing for this. And let me add this in there if I might. A lot of people say, well, is this going to raise my taxes? Something's going to raise, something's going to happen. It's just going to cost us more in the long run. Well, let me just explain this. Somebody else is going to go get the money, and we're all going to end up paying for it some way, somehow. So as a local church, for your church, you may as well get the money. That way, the tithes that are coming in from your members can be deposited into the bank, could be saved for other expenses to help your families in your church or other things that are going on so that you can still receive monthly paycheck. So definitely ensure that you take advantage of this because all of us are going to qualify unless you don't follow what we're about to share here. The loan forgiveness calculation, the sum of the following payments made by the borrower during the 8-week period beginning on the date of the loan. All right, so you go in and you ask for a loan that is 2.5 times your monthly payroll. That is 10 weeks worth of payroll. You only have 8 weeks to spend the money. It was a recommendation that when you go in and ask for this loan, that you also set up an additional checking account. That way, those funds can be placed into that checking account and used only over the next 8 weeks. You have to spend the money. You just can't bank it. Your church just can't put it in. They need to pay you. They need to do other things, utilities and all that. So over the 8-week period, you will have to prove that you paid payroll costs, mortgage interest, not mortgage payments, but the interest on mortgage, rent, and certain utility payments, gas, water, electric, basic utilities on that. So I want to encourage you to keep good records of what you are spending this money on. So if you get this loan, you need to keep good records because at the end of the 8-week period, you'll go back to your bank, you will fill out the paperwork, you will show them what you spent the money on and show them proof, and they will submit the paperwork and the loan will be forgiven and you do not owe anything, not even the interest on it. Because during the first 8 weeks of this, and I think a couple months even afterwards, the interest does not kick in. So it costs you absolutely nothing. So looking at this, if your payroll is $2,000 a month, you're going to end up getting $5,000. All right. You're still going to get paid. Take the rest of the money that your members are paying. If you're getting $2,000 a month, your members can put that into tithe fund, general fund, whatever needs to be done. Store up this so that, because we don't know how much further down the road this is going to go. This is securing you as a pastor, and this is securing your local church at the same time by giving them some additional funds to work with over the next several months. Next slide is payroll protection loan forgiveness. To seek forgiveness, the borrower must submit to the lender an application that includes documentation verifying the number of employees and pay rates and canceled checks showing mortgage, rent, and utility payments. Next slide. There are key stipulations to this. There's a provision that reduces the amount that could be forgiven if the employer so if your church either reduces its workforce during the 8-week covered period when compared to other periods in either 2019 or 2020. So they can't fire you. Well, they can, but they wouldn't want to right away. They can't, you wouldn't want to let go of your janitor, your associate pastor. You want to keep them on payroll for that 8-week period so that the entire amount can be forgiven. Now, you can fire the associate pastor, just make sure you hire another one. So you can do that. It reduces the salary or wages paid to an employee who had earned less than $100,000 in annualized salary by more than 25% during the covered period. So if they pay you less, then that loan is not going to be forgiven fully. They need to pay you the same average amount. And this reduction can be avoided if the employer rehires or increases the employee's pay within the allotted time. Here's an example, and I know these numbers are stretched for many. You calculate your payroll cost, and it equals $20,000 per month. You multiply 20 by 2.5, loan amount is $50,000. You go to your local bank with the required documentation. The bank will transfer the money into your bank account, and over 8 weeks, you need to spend $50,000 on payroll, mortgage interest, rent, qualifying utilities. You retain at least the same number of employees and contractors over the 8-week period. You apply for loan forgiveness by filling out the required documentation, and you're done. The loan is forgiven. It really is simple as that. There is also an idle emergency grant. This is found at COVID-19relief.sba.gov. You can go to COVID-19relief.sba.gov. You can go ahead and apply for a $10,000 emergency loan. And that same loan, as long as you fill out the COVID-19 relief form for this, that is a $10,000 loan that is forgivable as well. You need to submit numbers to them. Those numbers are how much income your church received over the last 12 months, what your expenses were over the last 12 months. Why do you need this loan? Are you anticipating a reduction in giving? I think every one of us are anticipating some reduction in giving. So you can find out more about this one. I'm not discussing tonight much on the idle emergency grant. You can go on there, fill out the paperwork. If you qualify and they deem you qualified, this $10,000 is deposited into your bank account in 3 days. Make sure you deposit that into the church's account. You will need to prove what you spent this money on. You will need to spend the money. Again, this is a stimulus package to put money back into the economy and to keep our churches and individuals afloat and get us through this hard time. So this isn't a money banking opportunity, except for those tithes and offerings that are coming in if you get the payroll protection loan. Last but not least, finally, a little information on additional features of this that are important to share with your members. The CARES Act allows an individual to make a cash contribution of up to $300 and deduct the contribution above the line when computing adjustable gross income. This means the taxpayer will receive this deduction in addition to their standard deduction. I was listening to one presenter and he said how amazing that it is that they made this. The maximum amount is $3,000, and they made it so that your people can deduct tithing on it. So you can tell your people you got $3,000. For those who have families of 4 or more, you can tithe on it and you can go ahead and deduct it above the line in addition to their standard deduction. So if you got a refund coming back, you get that $300 back later in your tax refund. So go ahead and give it to your local church. It'd be a wonderful thing for them to do. For those who do itemize, the new law temporarily lifts the limit on charitable giving for 2020. Cash contributions can be deducted up to 100% of adjustable gross income for 2020, normally limited to 60%. So every deduction or every gift that they give your church, my church, any of us, or any nonprofit, they are able to deduct 100% of what they give dollar for dollar. Excess contributions can be carried over to the next 5 years. So if they exceed, you got some big donors who give to you, they can carry that over for 5 years. And corporate donors will be able to deduct donations totaling 25% of adjustable taxed income, normally only 10%. So if you got some business owners that have corporate are incorporated and set up for that, those business owners can deduct 25% of what the business gives to your local church versus normally what 10% is available. So this is available for churches. This is information that we want to give to you. Again, this is law. You are qualified for this. $350 billion is going to go very, very fast. In my mind, when I was thinking of this, and all the small businesses and all the churches around the United States that are thinking of doing this, I want to be first in line. My bank already has the paperwork. I did it yesterday. We already have an application in for the $10,000 grant. We are doing this as fast as possible because we want to be eligible for this. I do not know if this is going to be an option for you later. So once the $350 billion is gone, it's gone. You think those are huge numbers. Just think of those who have 500 employees and a $10 million payroll. They're going to use the funds from this, so and take advantage of it, and the funds are going to go rather quickly. So definitely want to encourage you to participate in all of this as well. All right. I've got a question here from Daryl, real quick, Brother Stone.
Yes.
Some of us have most of our salary designated as housing allowance. Is housing allowance part of payroll? Yes, housing allowance is part of payroll, absolutely. And we did discuss that in these webinars. So yes, it is included. Yeah.
Also, if you're set up where you're getting your expenses are being turned in and you're getting reimbursed on your expenses, that's considered part of payroll as well. So let me say this, and then we'll take any questions if you want to raise your hand. If I were to come to you today and say, it's going to be tough at your church, we know that, and you're a small church, and let's say your church pays you $500 a month, and I said to you, well, we're going to give you a check for $1,300. Most of you would be thrilled to take that to help your church. That's what this is. And even if your church doesn't pay a lot to you, it provides an opportunity for it's not a double dip for you, that you're going to get this money at the payroll and then also ask the church to pay you as well. The idea is that we're going to move you off the church's payroll for its normal contributions, and we're going to let what would normally be used to pay you go towards the church's expenses during this difficult time, and then you're still going to get your income. Brother Ryan, we're asked, what's the website again for there you go. He just put it in the chat room.
COVID.church.care and COVID-19 relief.
That came to me privately. If you'll click on it and share it with everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And we're going to make all of this available to you. Ryan's portion of this presentation will be on the website. These PowerPoint, I'm going to email those out to you, as well as a couple of screens or PDFs from the attorney that had to do with this as well. Now, a couple of things you are going to need when you do this. I'm doing this for the regional office. I've completed the SBA part, and let me just say, these are not typical loan documents when you're going to buy a house and they're 48 pages long. The SBA page, I think, was 2 pages and about 8 or 9 questions. No, this does not need to be passed in conference to do this. You may need to be able to get your information from your treasurer, but I can't imagine a church would say, well, let me back up on that. If you think you have someone that is anti or is so strongly on separation of church and state issues that they would not want any money from the government, then there might be some issues there. But I've read several articles today concerning that. This is not something that is being given just to churches, so it is not a preferential treatment to churches. Church utilities, yes, church utilities do apply to this. Am I right?
Might I add to that, Brother Stone? What my intention is, again, this is a loan at first, and then it becomes a grant. Funds that are coming in, I want to reserve on a side right now. If for any reason they tell me that I'm not qualified, I can pay it off immediately. or if any numbers they tell me are not qualified for forgiveness, I can pay it immediately. So if, for instance, I did make a utility payment, and they say, well, that utility didn't count. Well, I didn't have the church go remodel something or do something else with those funds. I have the funds from our donations and tithes coming in. And as far as all basic utilities, they are covered. So
I think the issue, Brother Ryan, would be in some of our churches, and I've pastored these churches, you have too, where it's week to week. Whatever comes in this week's going out this week. And so many of us wouldn't have money to be able to set aside. We're needing help this week. And so I think that if in this situation, if that's the case, I wouldn't blow it on, I would not spend it on a church remodel. I would use it only for what it's designated for, and not use any of your other funds for a church remodel at this point. I think it would be important to be prudent in what we're spending our finances on right now. And it's a way to be able, does this cover both church and parsonage utilities? Yes, it does. Am I right? I am right on that, Brother Ryan.
as long as the church owns it and you're not getting a, if it's your house, it doesn't count, even if the church is paying the utilities, like in a housing allowance. So if the church owns the parsonage and they are paying, it is the church's property and their bill. Yeah.
But it would be included in a housing allowance as a pay package.
Yes, but yeah, what I'm meaning though is, well, that would be considered differently because then that becomes salary or part of payroll.
Right. It would be a part of payroll. Must the applicant be the pastor? Not necessarily. The treasurer can do it, or anyone in your church that you feel more comfortable to do it. Am I right?
Yeah. Again, the applicant is the local church. You're not backing this at all. It's just the person who's going to be signing the documents on behalf of the church. So,
a couple of things you're going to need. How would you calculate receiving a salary plus percentage of tithes?
I can answer that too.
Okay.
What you need to do is you need to look back over the last 12 months. So April 1st through March 31st at this point of this year, the last 12 months, you need to say this is how much I was paid over that course of 12 months. Divide that by 12 and then times it by 2.5. And your local banker will be able to help you get all this stuff answered properly as well. That's what they're there for. They're small business. They're certified to do this. So I'm going to help you make that as well.
Yeah, a couple of things you are going to need is you are going to need your tax ID number. If your church gives you a 1099, well, they should be giving you a W-2. That tax ID number is on there. A few may still be doing 1099s, but it really should be a W-2. But your church tax ID number should be on there. You will have to have that to apply for this. If you do not have it, we have it in the regional office. You can email me. You want to answer Brother Blake's question there?
Same. Brother Blake asked, I've been pastoring less than a year. It's whoever the employee was. You're now the employee, so you need to go back over the whole year, even for the previous pastor, and calculate salary.
Right, based on what the church paid you. Right. So you will need your tax ID number. If you do not have that, you can email me tomorrow, and I'll be happy to send that to you tomorrow. Let me also say that if you're planning on setting up any type of online giving, you're going to need your federal ID number as well. Some have been contacting me saying, I need my federal ID number, and you will need that if you decide you want to do online giving. All right, any other questions? I'm going to shut down this screen. That way I can see better. Any other questions on the I would say, if at all possible. Go ahead, Brother Moore.
Yes. Is the application forms different on sba.gov/disaster, then on the COVID care or COVID.church/care. Is it different applications?
Well, COVID.church.care is just an informational website for churches on this. The SBA website is for the $10,000 grant. You can apply for that. I cannot guarantee you're going to be approved for it. Again, we didn't stipulate this, Brother Stone, but we're not financial advisors. We're just trying to get you the best information we know right now. The application for the payroll protection loan, though, is completely different from the $10,000 grant. For the payroll protection loan, you need to go to your local bank and talk to someone there in the SBA department.
Hey, am I still on?
You are.
Yes.
Okay. What I need to find out, though, is I can't even get into my bank. I have to make an appointment with them, and I don't even know when that's going to be.
Well, you can call them, and they can set this up virtually for you to do by email and for you to get the paperwork. You need to call somebody, and you need to ask who, what, when, and where so that you know who to get in contact with on Friday.
Yeah, they didn't want to give me that answer. I'm going to have to find somebody that will.
Are you saying that, let me look real quick. Go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
I went to Trustmark Bank today, and you can't get in. Right, and then they gave me there's a phone number on the window. I called it right then, and all they wanted to do was make an appointment for me sometime in the future.
Okay.
Right.
Well, you do. I'll say this too, Brother Stone. I mean, if you're having a hard time with one bank, the bank is going to make money off them giving you this loan. They're not making money off us. They're making money from the government to give you this loan. The guy that I am using is not where my checking account or our church checking account is. So
okay, you can go to any bank.
Find somebody, as long as they are an SBA preferred lender, and most banks are. So I'd find somebody who's going to help me get this done. Go ahead, Brother Stone. Sorry.
There is an organization called Cheney.org. They're out of California. They work with Tom Rainier and his group that used to be with Lifeway. They will walk you through this all completely. Now they're going to want some money for it. I think you'd have to evaluate, is it worth it? You know, if your church is only going to get $1,500, I wouldn't mess with them. But your bank, I called our banker today and just said, I need to know what needs to be done. She shot me over by email an old application, but it is not going to be the correct one because they have not released the correct one yet. But she just said, fill it out, email it back to me. And as he said, you can use any bank. You do not have to use your bank. And if you know a banker, I would talk to them because they make money off of issuing this to you, not from you, but from the government. So
okay,
I would certainly look at this, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to help our local churches financially through this crisis, plus keep getting paid. All right, any other questions that you have on that? Like I say, you will need a federal ID number. You'll have to have proof of salary. Your banker can tell you what that will be. Let's see, there's one other thing I wanted to, I think that was it from there. Any questions from anything? We've covered a lot tonight, so I don't want to keep you much longer. I hope these meetings are beneficial for you and will help you through this process. What we want to do as much as possible is just to provide for you and communicate with you as much as I can of what I'm being told. And as Brian said, we're not financial advisors, we're not legal advisors. I'm trying to tap into the people I know that have this. We have 2 attorneys on our stewardship and administrative committee. I have talked to both of them recently, and though that's not their field of expertise, they are saying we need to be very careful about our meetings. So that's coming from the attorneys themselves. Trying to see again if anybody has a hand raised. Brother Dean, just okay, go right ahead.
Oh, why was the suggestion to open up a separate checking account? Is that necessary?
It is not necessary. However, by using the separate checking account, it makes sure that you can ensure that every dime of that money was moved from the bank to that checking account, and every dime was used for what it was intended, and you don't have to worry about other finances being mixed all in what took place. Okay. You can say every penny was used for payroll, every penny was used for utilities or other things that were mentioned that were allowable. Again, make sure you understand it can't cover just payroll. So you've got 10 weeks worth of payroll, but you only got 8 weeks to spend it. And it starts the day you apply.
Well, does, am I still on? Does insurance, we got insurance coming up at Amory next month. It does not?
It does not include insurance, sorry.
But what it does do is provide for you the opportunity that whatever you would get paid could go towards the insurance.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's separate now. So you're going to get funds coming in that don't necessarily have to go to you, that could be used by the local church.
If we only have, like I'm the pastor and we don't have anybody else on payroll, it has to be spent on something for 8 weeks. But
right. And
we're not
make
meeting
sure
at the church, so we don't have a high light bill. We don't have a high utilities right now.
Well, be careful how much you request. Now, they can always say, well, you didn't spend it all, so that portion isn't going to be forgivable. So you just go ahead and write them out the check of what's left and hand it back to them and say, there you go. I used what I needed.
Gotcha.
Interest.
But I would find something to spend it on.
Interest doesn't start until January 1, 2021. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes. You can keep the money and spend it and pay it back in little chunks. So if it ain't forgiven, you can keep the money on an interest-free loan till, like Brother Stone said, January 2021. You just need to pay it back.
And at that point, it converts to a 10-year loan at 4% interest.
That's correct.
Well, we're still trying to recover from our flood, so we still got stuff to get spent it on. But I didn't know if that counted.
Remodeling could not be used for that.
Brother Stone, well, I'll ask you that later.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Brother Danny, did I see you raise, Danny Cook, did I see you raise your hand? Okay. I'm trying to switch between screens, so if you wave at me, keep your hand up. Okay, Brother Tim Winters, got you there.
Would unexpected expenses fall into that category? Say if during that length of time you have an AC unit go out or something like that need to be replaced, would that type of unexpected expense come under that?
No. And according to the new update on the SBA website, at least 75% of these funds you receive have to be spent on payroll. This is mainly a payroll protection, and you have to make sure it is very limited. Payroll, mortgage interest, rent, and utility payments. Those are the only items available to qualify to be forgiven.
Again, where it does help the local church is they're not paying you from the funds coming in. So if you think of what you get from the government separately from what is coming into the local church, you now have more that you're keeping at the local church because they're not paying a pastor's salary. So that money can be used for anything. But this money that comes from the government is basically a payroll supplement. Utilities, if you're renting a building, rent can come out of that as well.